Yo, what up? Welcome to another episode of the Oakland Warriors podcast. I'm Patrick, flying solo. So I'm a little bit late on this Warriors Rockets game. I watched it, but I didn't get a chance to record an episode right after. The Warriors, they beat the Rockets 120-101, and this game has been well reported on already. But I'll just say that it's nice that the Warriors, I mean, I've said things like this before recently, but it's nice that the Warriors are now at a point where we can start looking at their games and breaking down what the little things, the finer things they need to fix, work on, where they're kind of lacking. I mean, it's how it is usually, it's how it's been for the last few years since I started doing these game by game episodes, instead of the beginning of the season where it was like, what's wrong? Everything's wrong. And nothing made sense. Like the whole Warriors ecosystem was turned upside down. But, in this game, the Warriors obviously had complete total control. And that second unit, I mean, it was the starters too, a little bit at the end of the third quarter, but the second unit that was led by Draymond had their first, reasonable blip where they let the rope slip a little bit in the beginning of the fourth. And then the Warriors vets and Steph and whomever else came in the game and just hit a bunch of shots and then pushed it out of reach for the 6-17 Rockets. So, clearly now you can say that, okay, this is 2 games in a row where the Warriors have done that, and they need to basically tighten it up. They've beaten a couple teams that are obviously lesser than them, and they need to be able to just lock it up, lock it down, right? Against better teams, they haven't proven that they have the luxury of just flipping the switch. Maybe they will soon, but obviously, especially at 13-11 with some, bad losses, not so far back in the rearview mirror, you want to make sure that they start tightening things up. I've talked about how in the stretch of 5 games from games 21 to 25, I wanted to see, hopefully, I thought they could go 4-1. Right now they're 3-1. They play the surprisingly good Indiana Pacers on Monday night, and they're currently playing the Blazers in Portland. So Indiana will be traveling from Oregon on the second night of a back-to-back. And it's been reported that Andrew Wiggins and I believe Jordan Poole are questionable for the game. I'm assuming that'll get upgraded, but we'll see. But if those 2 dudes sit, obviously we get Clay back, but you'll definitely see a lot more Moses Moody, and you'll see a lot of Jonathan Kuminga, and you'll probably see some Ty Jerome as well, which obviously all of you are clamoring for. In this game against the Rockets, Moses Moody, he got bumped up in the rotation. He got some playing time because Clay sat. Clay doesn't play so far on the second night of back-to-backs, and Moody was solid. He hit some big shots for them. He was 4 for 5, 3 from 3, 11 points, still minus 16. But overall, it's nice to see that he can come in and he's ready to let it fly. We've always known ever since his initial interviews before the draft, the 21 draft, that he was a true professional, right? A kid who was like 19 years old, but carried himself as if he'd been in the league for like 5 years. So it's good to see him kind of just show up and do his thing. And, he said in the presser afterwards that it sucks. And of course it sucks. It definitely sucks. He was the guy that we all assumed out of the 3 lotto picks he's plug and play. He's definitely going to be in the rotation, and he's not. It's not exactly clear why. Some of it has been spoken that, he has been a little bit lackadaisical, a little porous on defense, that he's hunting his shot, etc. And maybe knowing that and seeing that Kuminga is, making the extra pass, not hunting his shot, not trying to just pad stats, that maybe Moody will kind of be able to crack the rotation a little bit more. We'll see. We'll see. I've said, and I will continue to say that I hope eventually, again, I know that he and Anthony Lamb are different positions, but that hopefully Anthony Lamb gets shoved down the rotation a little bit. I don't know. That's just me because I want to see the lotto picks out there eventually. But I totally get that Lamb he's been solid. He's had a couple games where it's like a blip and he gets benched for a little bit. It is what it is. I want to talk about Andrew Wiggins a little bit, in praise of Andrew Wiggins. I've said many times that he has been the Warriors' second most consistent, second best player this season from the very beginning. Sure, Steve Kerr has talked about how his defense hasn't been as good as it was last year, but a lot of other dudes have been, have had slower starts all around. But Wiggins in that Rockets game, 34 minutes, 14 for 19, 8 for 10 from three, clanked both of his free throws, plus 34 on the night, 36 points, 5 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, and a block, and only 1 foul. So in a way, I guess I was kind of wrong about Andrew Wiggins. I did not think, and I alluded to this after a previous game this season, but I did not think he could get that much better. I thought, especially last season where he was very, very good. And then when the All-Star break hit afterwards, he tailed off and then he came back in the playoffs. And I really think it's the playoffs where he really saw his role and where he saw like, oh, this is what it takes day in, day out to win a championship. And not just simply the work ethic, but like how he fits into everything, right? I was looking at his usage before. And when he played for Minnesota, that dude was playing 36, 37, 36 minutes a game. And now he's playing 32, 31, maybe pushing 33. So he's a role player. We know that, right? He's a very, very, very good role player, but he knows exactly where he fits. He knows who he is now. And I think in his career of kind of, being in high school, like not that highly touted until the end of his high school career, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, he played 1 year at Kansas with Joel Embiid. Then he became the number 1 pick and he had all this pressure on him and then et cetera, So after that, it was like, who is Andrew Wiggins? And the playoffs and the finals showed him who he is and who he needs to be. It showed him who he is so much that he took a pay cut, right? Like he's like, this is who I am. This is who I want to be. And I'm going to take a pay cut because that's okay, because that fits and that makes sense. So earlier in the season, I was talking about how good his percentages were from the field, and they're still as good, if not better, right? 51% from the field, 45% from three. And surprisingly, he's 63% from the line, which I think it was a little bit higher earlier in the season, but I think that has dipped. But just gotta say that, like, if Andrew Wiggins was not on this team, if he was not playing as consistently, if he was, honestly, remember how questionable he was at the beginning of last season, where people on Twitter were saying, like, trade him, move him, whatever. His first couple seasons here, it seemed like he wasn't like that Andrew Wiggins athleticism, that Maple Jordan stuff that we used to hear. He really wouldn't put it on display. A lot of his drives were like just, simple layups, and he would clank them sometimes and whatnot. And ever since that last season started going, he clearly became more aggressive. He's had so many highlight dunks that will forever be etched in my mind and the minds of all Warriors fans, right? Like the Luka dunk, the 2 dunks on Karl Anthony Towns in the regular season last year. It has clicked for him. I talked about early in the season how I had hoped and expected, that the Warriors young guys would make that like post-championship leap. You know what I mean? They get that championship bump where young dudes who play in the finals, deep in the playoffs, they really, really, like have this confidence when they come back the next season. And, you see that too from guys who go to the Olympics with Team USA for the first time. All of a sudden they see the work ethic. They see that it really does pay off and they're more committed, all that jazz. But I guess I was wrong. I was wrong only in the sense that I mistakenly forgot that what is actually really important to get that championship bump is to have played a ton of minutes in the playoffs. And bottom line is, like, Moody did play in the Western Conference Finals, and he was quality and all that stuff. And Kuminga gave some good minutes, especially I believe against Memphis and whatnot. So I'm not knocking their contributions at all, but like the one who got the really big bump is Andrew Wiggins, right? Because he's shown it from the very start. And he played a ton. He was critical, second best player in the playoffs for the Warriors last year, right? So that is the guy, right? I think I did an episode where I talked about the championship bump in the preseason, and I was expecting to see guys like Kuminga and Moody just come in and all of a sudden, like, improve the way like Mikal Bridges did on the Suns after they made the finals. So he was more critical for them in the finals than the Warriors' young guys. And obviously, James Wiseman didn't even suit up all of last season, and he wasn't in the playoffs nor the finals. But Wiggins, again, if the Warriors didn't have him, they're 2 games above 500 right now, and they'd probably be, I don't know, like 5 games under. So we'll see. But again, just reiterating from the previous episode, I feel good about the Warriors and where they're at this point. If they can get this game against the Pacers, then that's 4-1 right there. And that's a very, very good stretch. The thing is, it's important to get that game because right now, with Portland playing right now, the Warriors are in the 6th spot. Earlier today, maybe a couple hours ago, the Warriors had dropped back down to like the 9th seed, and that's how tight everything is. And pretty soon, as December goes on, you'll see more and more separation. But what comes up for the Warriors after game 25, after the Pacers game, is a tougher stretch, right? You'll get a game in Utah, then you go to Boston, you get Milwaukee at home, you see the Pacers again, but on the road, and then you play in Philly. So that's the middle of a Eastern Conference road trip. After that, they get Toronto in Toronto, then they go to New York, play the Knicks, and then the Nets, and then they come home for Christmas against the Grizzlies. So it's, there's a couple games that they should win, but there's a lot of tough ones in there. There's a lot of tough ones. And as far as we've been seeing lately, they're looking better. But they've played some poor teams that are trending downwards, or teams that are just young and trying to improve and even trying to tank. So they really should snag this Indiana one before going out. And, we'll see, because, everything's all nice now, and just, the Warriors are working stuff out, but this is a true test. It's a true test. If they come out of this next stretch, I don't know how many games I counted right there, like 9 or something, but if they come out of that like 3-6, then, you're going to start, seeing the hand wringing, of course, and issues that come up. But at least at that point, you can look at this team and, you know what they have right now, and it's reasonable. And then you can move from there. If that, again, means moving, anybody that we've talked about, right? All these fake trades going around, because that's what sports fans and media love to talk about. We all love to talk about the hypothetical. We love to talk about hope, right? And I think it's going to be very, very interesting from now until the trade deadline. The NBA season is heating up, and there are still so many unknowns. Like, will James Wiseman actually be on this Warriors team by the end of the season? I hope so. When I'm looking to get in on the action, I bet with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. New customers can bet just $5 pregame money line on any NBA team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Check this out. Right now, everyone can earn up to a 100% boost with DraftKings stepped up same game parlays. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, place a same-game parlay, and combine multiple bets like which team will win, total rebounds, and more. The more legs you add, the bigger the boost, the bigger your shot to win big. The app is super easy to use. Just pop it open, do what you got to do, and you're good to go. Download the app now, sign up with code TBPN, place a $5 pregame moneyline bet on any NBA team to win their game, and get $150 in free bets if they do. That's code TBPN only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. One dude that I was looking forward to in this game that is actually injured, and as of now, he is not going to play against the Warriors. He's actually not playing against the Blazers tonight, but is Tyrese Haliburton. The dude's averaging 19 points, 4.7 boards, and 11 assists. He's shooting 37% from three, 84% from the line, and I'll go back to the 2020 draft. I think if I recall correctly, I've talked about how much I liked Wiseman. I wanted Wiseman, but the first two that I really, really wanted the Warriors to pick from were Anthony Edwards and James Wiseman, of course, number 1 and 2 in the draft. And the second two were LaMelo Ball and Tyrese Haliburton. And everybody talks about Tyrese Haliburton, everybody passing on him in the draft until the Sacramento Kings took him with the 12th pick. Right. Everybody's like, oh, no one had any idea he was going to be this good. That's bull, because a lot of people were saying that he was potentially the 4th pick in the draft, or that, the Warriors should take a serious look at drafting Haliburton or trading back a little bit and taking him somewhere else in the lottery. And me, I had a hypothetical trade in my mind, which was never, ever a real thing. Never. This was just something that, like, as I was like staring at the TV screen, I was like, oh man, what if we took that Minnesota pick and traded that for another spot in the 2020 lottery and took Tyrese Haliburton? It would never have happened, because that Minnesota pick was so valuable, because you did not know where it could have landed. It could have landed 4 or 5, whatever. Obviously it landed 7. And then a high lottery pick is always worth like so much. But I mentioned in the last episode, like, there's another universe where the Warriors drafted Tyrese Haliburton, and that guy was just definitely like plug and play. He looked, he carried himself. He has those intangibles, right? He has those things where you just look at him and he knows how to play basketball. He knows how to make a winning play. And the next thing, and who knows if the Warriors draft him, you don't know what happens to Jordan Poole, right? Does he get pushed out a little bit? Does like that affect how the Warriors look at Poole and play him that season? Maybe not. But Haliburton is definitely a guy that, just when you're comparing him versus Wiseman right now, is tough. It's tough to look at, because Haliburton is getting all the flowers from everybody. He's getting all the praise about how good he is. And yes, that trade between the Pacers and the Kings worked out for both sides right now. They're both, playing well. But my opinion, Tyrese Haliburton is by far the best player in that trade. And as long as he continues on this trend, like, if I was Sacramento, it's like I would have traded De'Aaron Fox. And, it's going to be tough, because it's like Tyrese Haliburton would have been such a perfect Warrior, right? Like, you always hear about Andre Iguodala, how over the years with the Warriors and the dynasty, how he would say to Steve Kerr or other coaches or other players, like, get this guy out of here, because, this guy's not a Warriors player. Like, he would just make judgments and calls on people. And I'm pretty sure he would say Tyrese Haliburton is a Warriors player. He would be, like how Andre said Pat McCall was his replacement. Tyrese Haliburton would have been his real replacement. But unfortunately, he's not going to play. So he won't be there. But that's a good thing, because I guess that means that the Pacers will be down one of their best players, and coming off of, it looks like they are right now, they're trailing by 17 to the Blazers with 11 minutes left in the 4th. So coming off a back-to-back, that's an even better shot for the Warriors to take this game on Monday. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. I'm super bummed that Tyrese Haliburton is not playing. Also, lastly, I just want to say thanks for all the comments on YouTube about the last episode about whether or not the Warriors should trade for Alex Caruso. Like I said earlier, trades are so like people feel passion about trades, right? Like everything is so definitive. Like this person is good, this person is not. Let's move them. And I love to see it. I love the debates. I love talking because, like, in the past, I've been right a ton of times, but I've also been so very wrong. Plenty of times, like I said, where I've been 100% correct. But I will own up to any mistakes that I've had. And with this Warriors team, we're talking about like people saying like you need to move Wiseman to make this team better. It's like, yeah, who knows? Maybe in 10 games after this next stretch that I spoke of, the writing will be on the wall, or maybe the Warriors improve, start showing who they really are, the contenders that we believe them to be, and it goes from there. I will catch you after this Pacers game. That is another episode of the Oakland Warriors podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter at Patrick E. Pino or at Oakland Warriors. Check out our YouTube channel where you can watch this episode, youtube.com/Oakland Warriors. Check us out at oaklandwarriors.com, and be sure to tell your fellow Warrior fan friends to tune in and listen. The Oakland Warriors podcast is produced by National Film Society and is a part of the Basketball Podcast Network. And if you're so inclined, please do leave us a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you want to leave us a nice review saying good stuff about the show on Apple Podcasts, that would be hugely appreciated, and it would be very, very helpful. Thanks. That's it.
Music in this episode provided by Paper Sun. Special thanks to Paul Amardo for production support. See you next time, and go Dubs.